Councilman Johnson,
Yes.
did you receive my message? We're being
Yes.
recorded, but if you can just.
Yes.
Okay, thank
Yes,
you.
I did.
All right, thanks.
And
we do have a quorum.
Okay, let me just, I'm on a different computer today, so just bear with me. Whenever WITN is ready.
We're ready, Councilman Johnson.
All right. All right. Good evening, everyone. We're here for the February 2022 Finance Committee meeting. My name is Chris Johnson. I'm the chairman of the Finance Committee from the 7th District. At this time, I would like to do a roll call. Vice Chair Harley, 4th District.
Present.
Councilwoman Oliver, 3rd District.
Present.
Council Member Field.
Present.
At-large Council Member Walsh. Okay, you know what? I apologize. I believe I apologize in today's proceeding. At-large Council Member Spadola.
Present.
And then we have also, do we have Council President Congo?
Here.
Okay, and let me just flip my screen. I believe we also have, do we have Council Member Gray, 1st District?
Yes, here.
Okay, and Council Member Fields, 5th District.
Yes, here.
All right, well, I appreciate everyone in attendance today. Because we do have a pretty packed agenda, as always, even though we're in the virtual setting due to the current variant, with same rules apply as when we're in chambers. So, you know, we're going to move swiftly through each agenda item, and we do have public comment on each item. It will be the 3 minutes per speaker. Okay, so we do have members of the public in attendance. So if there's anyone who wants to comment or ask any questions, you can just do the raise hand feature, I believe, if you haven't signed up beforehand, and I will make sure you get your time on the floor. All right. So without further ado, we're going to go a little bit out of order, just due to some obligations everyone has. So I'm going to go to the last agenda item number 6, and this will be the fiscal year 2022 second quarter expenditure report. I believe we have OMB. At this time, Mr. Greco, it's you, and I guess anyone else from your department. The floor is yours.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I do have George Hayford, and George will be giving the very brief presentation. We'd also like to ask that the screen be shared with the Excel or the PDF file that we sent earlier. Can everyone see the screen? Is it too small?
It's visible to me. It's a little small, but you know, it may just be my eyes.
Okay.
Can you zoom in a little bit? WITN, is that? I'm trying to zoom in on my screen, but.
Oh, there it goes.
Perfect.
That's okay.
That's a lot better. I had to take out my glasses.
Okay,
right.
So if everyone could see the screen, George, I'm going to turn it over to George Hayford. George.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Greco. Good afternoon, Council Chairman and Council members. I'm here to present what happened for the end of the second quarter. That's OMB has to report to Council. Per city code, OMB has to report to Council account line that equal or exceed 75%. As presented are those account line. Do any council members have questions pertaining to what is being shown?
No, let me just survey. I don't believe any council members have their hands raised. But if so, we will let you know.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Mr. Hayford, are you trying to switch screens?
No, these are the only items that qualify to what council have said. I don't have any other screen.
I think, Mr. Chair, George, I think, did you ask if anyone had any questions? I think he was saying, everyone look at the screen. Do you have any questions? But we could quickly read what's going on here.
Well, and let me just start. It's only there's three big items, and the one is the legal. I know we had a budget amendment for that, I believe at the end of 2021. So is the new legal budget, is that factored into where we are? So this percentage 82.8, is that the old original number, or is that the new number of the extra funds that we allotted for the legal funds?
Right, that's the, it's still, we were actually well over budget before the budget amendment because there was only $500,000 in that account. And then we got hit with this 2 million. So it still meets this criteria for this ordinance, which says we must report anything that equals or exceeds 75% of budget, the actual. So we're within budget, but we're at 82.8%. And that's that column that says percent of budget spent year to date. And we do in the comments mention the $2 million budget increase approved by City Council in November.
Okay, thank you very much, Director Greco. And then I guess the other question, the other item I do notice, and I'm just comparing it to prior fiscal years, is fire. Typically police is on there, but I notice police is not on there. So
No.
So police, I assume, is within budget, and it's just fire department now.
Police was not at the 75% threshold after the 6-month period of the fiscal year. And actually in the last 2 fiscal years, police before COVID, police was actually coming in at or below budget in many of their overtime lines. Fire has vacancies, but COVID has really hit the fire department hard. And we're seeing that with higher than normal sick leave, which is causing the overtime to exceed the 75% mark at 6 months.
And then just lastly, L&I, is this Delmarva project, is it near completion, or do we expect it to continue through the rest of the fiscal year?
We were told by the commissioner that this is something that's going to go on probably for 18 months or so. So no, it's not going to be over anytime soon. Also, he does have some vacancies more than normal. So between that and this Delmarva citywide gas line and meter replacement program, where we then have to send someone out to do the inspection to make sure things are being done properly, he had to use more temp salaries. We are going to cover it, however, with the savings he has in his regular salary line due to the vacancies.
Okay. All right, those are all the questions I have. Now I'm going to turn it to members of the committee. Vice Chair Harley, a question.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So for those over budget due to COVID, are we able to use any of the ARP's funds to help compensate in that category? You're on mute, sir.
I'm sorry about that. Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes.
So what's happening with ARPA, there's two pieces to it. There will be some projects that were put out there, grants, and which I believe the mayor's office has talked to council a little bit about some of those. So the big chunk of that's probably going to go for those kind of neighborhood revitalization projects. And then a piece of ARPA in the FY 2023 budget, the budget that you'll be reviewing soon, the mayor's budget address is coming up in March. There's something called revenue replacement, which is what you're allowed to show because you had revenue reduced because of COVID. That will help cover these overages, but there will not be a direct transfer of the ARPA money to the expense line, to the budget line.
Okay, gotcha. All right, let me turn to other members of the committee or other council members present. All right, seeing none, I'm going to turn it to members of the public for any questions. There was a hand raised, but WITN, is that hand now down?
It's down.
It's back up.
Okay, I believe there's an individual, Tom G. Tom G, the floor is yours. Can you please state your name and of course where you're from prior to starting? Thank you. Oh. Okay, looks like they're not on there, right, WITN, or?
Yeah, they dropped off.
Okay, well, if they come back, we can certainly give them the floor again. Turning it back to members of the committee, if is there any questions or comments? All right, seeing none, thank you very much, Director Rick Greco, for your comprehensive, chart, and then also Mr. Hayford. It's a pleasure as always. So thank you very much for taking part tonight. And is this your only item on the agenda today?
Yes, it is, Mr. Chair.
All right, well, all right, well then.
We appreciate you moving it up to the first item. Thank you very much.
No problem.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
All right, now turning back to the regular agenda, pull it up. We're going back in order now. So we're going to go to the first item on the agenda, which is the update on the American Rescue Plan. We'll do the update on the American Rescue Plan funding.
Okay.
So,
Excuse me, Mr. Chair, may I ask a question?
Yes, council member.
Is there any way we could do the ordinances, please? Because
you know what? It actually may make more sense because I think there may be a lot of questions and answers on the ARPA. So I have no objection going out of order. So
appreciate it. Thank you. I just want to be here for the vote. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay.
I appreciate it. So if no folks in the committee have any objections, actually, I believe that's a good suggestion by Councilmember Oliver, because I think the ARPA may be a little lengthy. So let's just move to the ordinance portion first, then we can move back.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
So then we'll move to item number 2 on the agenda. It's ordinance 22-002. This is a ordinance in the issuance of the city's general obligation bond for the Wetlands Park project. And just going to turn it over to the administration. Is there anyone from Public Works here to speak about the ordinance?
I can speak to it.
Okay.
Kelly
All right.
Williams, Commissioner of Public Works.
All right, Commissioner Williams, the floor is yours.
Thank you. So this ordinance is requesting the money that we need to finish the wetlands project. Basically, it's the second portion of the wetlands portion of the project that we need to complete the project. We're asking for $11.4 million to do the sewer separation portion of the project, and this is what we need to get the project finished. It's the portion of the project that happens underground, right? So it's the portion of the project that separates the pipes that has both the sanitary sewer and the stormwater together. We separate those two, and the stormwater is diverted into the wetlands park. And then the sanitary sewer goes to our wastewater treatment plant. And then that makes the wetlands park functional, and the project is then complete. And this is the portion that we're looking to finish.
All right. Thank you very much, Commissioner Williams. Now turning to members of council if they have any questions on this ordinance. I see there's a few. Members. First up.
Thank you. Good evening, Director Williams. I'm curious, why would this project not fall under the state's portion of the infrastructure fund, specifically from the Arpa funds? Are we not able to tap into those?
So the Arpa funds are much different than the upcoming infrastructure fund. So those are two separate pots of money. The Arpa funds that you guys will be discussing later, those have been programmed by the mayor for completely different purposes. And the upcoming theoretical infrastructure funds are planned and supposedly coming, but they are not yet in place. They are asking for notices of intent for the future, but this is a project that has been planned for since it began actually in 2010. The first bonds that we requested were back in 2017, and now this is the second portion of it. So this project was planned, developed, engineered, projected, many years ago before any infrastructure money was even contemplated. So this has been in the pipeline for a very long time, well before any sort of infrastructure money was even thought of happening. So we really need to go ahead and request this money and get the project finished so that we can help the South Bridge area in the flooding that we've promised for those citizens down there. And that's what these
So if I'm understanding correctly, you're if I'm paraphrasing you correctly, waiting on the state's infrastructure fund specifically might put this project at risk or delay it needlessly.
Right. So that infrastructure money, exactly. We don't know if it would qualify, when it would qualify, how long it'll take before that money actually hits the ground. Certainly, if that infrastructure money becomes available, we are, and we have plans to go after every single penny that we possibly can. And we have many, many, many projects in the pipeline that we think will be available and will qualify for those monies. Believe me, there's enough things that we can do with our aged infrastructure out there. And, this is just, one of many things that we have planned out there. But if we don't ask for this money now, then this project could be delayed, even longer. And, the risk of that is just, it's stretching out many more years, and there's a delicate balance of that, right? So there's a lot of things happening in the Southbridge area, and not getting to this portion of the project, which is going to occur on A Street, which is a key transportation aspect of the Southbridge area. It might gum up the works for a lot of planned activity down there.
Thank you.
Vice Chair Harley. Floor is yours.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So first I want to say that I really do appreciate that the administration is moving forward with completing the project in the wetlands. As Commissioner Kelly said, this has been ongoing. The wetlands project has been ongoing for many, many years. And the community and the residents in that area have been asking and looking forward to the project being completed. However, Commissioner Kelly, I just heard you mention how this is going to impact A Street. What stretch of A Street is this going to impact? I'm certain it's starting at Market Street, and how far back will it extend? Because I know there are concerns regarding the flooding on the eastern part of A Street, like once you pass Hill Street. So that's what I wanted to know, if it goes out to A Street or beyond beyond Hill Street.
So I would have to look at the actual construction plans, but it's going to impact, directly adjacent to the wetlands park for sure. And then we are going to go as far as Heald Street, because what we're trying to do, the whole point of the project is to get as much as those sewer lines separated as possible, because that's what's going to alleviate the localized flooding. So the further out we go, the further, the more sewers that we can disconnect, the better it is for those individuals, right? So the bigger we make it, while it's going to be inconvenient for a period of time, the better it is in the long run for them. And the more people we can capture with respect to, alleviating their localized flooding issues.
Correct. One quick follow-up, Mr. Chair.
Yes, please.
Yes, Commissioner Kelly, another reason why I had asked, because I'm not sure if you are aware or not, but I believe it was in October. This was after Hurricane Ida. There was like a major flooding over on Bradford Street. And a lot of the residents in that area were very, very concerned because the flooding was very, very high. And so I know we can probably talk about this offline in terms of how far down A Street, and talk about if there are additional plans and if additional funding is needed to take this project beyond Bradford Street as well. Because again, if you are aware of the flooding that took place, or you're aware of that flooding that took place on Bradford Street?
Yeah, I am. Yep.
Okay. So I just wanted to be able to give the community an update, and this is all good, it's great. And I just wanted to be clear on what is changing. So thank you.
Okay. Yeah,
All
I'd
right.
be happy to discuss it offline. Yep.
Okay,
All
thank
right,
you.
Councilwoman Oliver, the floor is yours. You're
Yes,
still on mute.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you. I'm sorry. No, I just wanted to reiterate what Councilwoman Hardy said, because I'm very familiar with this project, and I remember that the last portion of money went down by the field house, and a lot of residents over in the South Bridge area was very upset, stating that they thought the woodlands would be coming by Barbara Hicks Park, over on B Street, Hill Street, and Newcastle Avenue. And as it turned out, it started the opposite way. So I was wondering, my question also was, how far east was it going? And I was hoping, but then when you just said that, so that leads me to believe that you're going to go back by the field house and make it somewhat up in that area, because that's still not clear enough. But I'll talk to you about that offline.
Okay. Yeah, we can show you plans.
All right, thank you very much. There's no other questions by members of council. I'll then turn it to members of the public. Any questions or comments? All right. Seeing none, I'll turn it back to members of council again. I believe since we're still on first time, Council Member Darby.
I just wanted to be recognized, Council Chair. I don't think I was recognized.
Okay. Thank you very much. I'd like to recognize Council Member Darby from 2nd District and Vice Chair Harley.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I would just like to be added as a co-sponsor. Anything dealing with the wetlands and improving it and moving it forward and progressing that project getting done. I've been advocating for it, so I would love to be added as a co-sponsor if I'm not the sponsor of the legislation. Thank you.
All right, so noted. And everyone, this is an ordinance. So since it is an ordinance, it must be voted out of committee. So at this time, I would entertain a motion to move ordinance 22-002 out of committee to full council for a vote.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the ayes have it, and ordinance 22-002 will move to full council for a vote. I believe it should be on the agenda for February 17th. Is that correct, Marshall?
Yes, that's correct, Chairman.
All right, perfect. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, this time I'll then move to item number 3 on the agenda. It's ordinance 22-003. It's an ordinance authorizing the issuance of the city's general obligation bond for the water main improvement project. I believe this is another public works project.
That's correct. Deputy Commissioner Vince Carocha, Chair.
Okay.
This is a SRF loan to borrow $7.5 million for small water main replacement throughout the water district. This is an ongoing program in our capital budget, and this 7.5 is being receiving principal forgiveness in the amount of $523,000. So even though the loan is for $7.5 million, we'll be paying back less than that.
All right. Is there any questions and comments on this ordinance? Members of the committee or council members present? All right. Seeing none, I'll turn it to members of the public. Are there any questions or comments on this specific ordinance from Public Works? All right. Seeing none, I then since this is an ordinance similar to the last one, it does need to be voted out of committee. So at this time, I'll entertain a motion to move ordinance 22-003 out of committee to full council for a vote.
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to move ordinance 22-003 out of committee to full council for vote. On this time, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, the ayes have it, and ordinance 22-003 will move to full council for vote. As indicated earlier, it will be moved to the agenda on February 17th, 2022. Thank you. All right, so the fourth item on the agenda is ordinance. It's an ordinance to authorize and approve an agreement between the City of Wilmington and USI Insurance Services LLC for the property and casualty insurance brokerage services. At this time, I believe we have a representative from risk management, Mr. James Robb.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of council. I'm Jim Robb, the city risk manager.
Okay,
The
the floor
ordinance-
is yours, sir.
The ordinance is for a contract for our incumbent insurance broker for property and casualty insurance, which is USI Insurance Services LLC, to continue year to year for another 4 years. They've been our broker since 2014 and done an excellent job. USI was chosen again from among 3 brokers that we sent out requests for bids to. One of which came back with a bid 50% higher than USI. The other one did not bid. USI has been keeping our premiums relatively low in this crazy liability insurance market with very, very high increases in liability insurance the last couple of years due to catastrophic losses, poor returns on investments, et cetera. So we're asking for your approval of this contract.
Okay, and Mr. Robb, USI has been a longtime broker of the City of Wilmington. Is that correct?
That's correct, sir. Since August of 2014.
Okay. All right. And the city is satisfied with their services, no problems with claims, anything like that?
No problems at all, Mr. Chairman. We've been very, very satisfied.
All right, I have no further questions. Any questions from members of the committee or council members present? Vice Chair Harley.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So how long is the agreement? Contract?
The initial contract is for fiscal 23 with 3 extensions in our discretion.
Mm-hmm. And I think I heard you say that this was the best price of the you put RFPs out for this agreement, or
request for quotes, yes, to three different the only 3 brokers that I was familiar with in this vicinity, 3 substantial brokers, and only one other broker bid, and their bid was 50% higher, as I said.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Chair.
Okay, is there?
Mr. Chair.
I didn't see your hand raised, but Councilmember.
Oh, no, I didn't. I'm sorry, that's my part. No, I wanted to tell James he did a good job with this. Thank you. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Thank you.
All right. All right. Excellent. So if there's no other questions from members of the committee or council, then we'll turn it to members of the public. If there's any comments or questions specifically about this USI contract. Seeing none, I'll turn it back to members of council for, again, any questions or comments about the USI risk management contract. Oh, Councilmember Fields.
Yes, thank you, Council Chair. I just had a question about the risk management company. You said the other company, their fee was 50% more, but what were they offering the same type of benefits that we have with the current company?
Yes, ma'am. They responded that they would offer the same, to market our liability insurance, our property insurance, et cetera. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, that's all I want. I just wanted to know, why was it 50? Like, were they giving you something extra that we didn't need, or they had some low premiums? I'm just trying to figure out, like, if they offer better premiums or something. I said, okay, maybe we could go with the 50% more. But if they just offering what we already have, then I see why. Thank you. That was my only question.
You're welcome, ma'am.
All right. All right, well, seeing no additional questions, since this is an ordinance, it does need to be voted out of committee. So at this time, I'll entertain a motion to move the ordinance to authorize and approve the agreement between the City of Wilmington and USI Insurance Services out of committee to full council for a vote.
Second. So moved.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to move the contract ordinance to full city council for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, the ayes have it, and the ordinance will move to full council for a vote on February 17th, 2022. All right, and last but not least, the agenda item number 5 is an ordinance to authorize and approve an agreement between the City of Wilmington and USI Services for life and health insurance brokerage services. Is there anyone from risk management to speak about that particular contract?
Hi, good evening, Council Chair. This is Donnie Smith, the city's benefits manager, here to speak on that contract.
Okay, Ms. Smith, well, the floor is yours. Thank you for joining us.
So thank you very much. So good evening, all. Very similar to what James Robbs discussed regarding as a city's risk manager. From the benefits perspective, it is a similar contract with USI. We've had this relationship with them since 2014, and this would again be to have a 1-year contract with 3 options to extend the contract as we see fit. So again, we have had this contract in the past. We just running up on our last year of the extension. We've had exceptional service from USI. It also represents a rate hold for us, which we're very excited about. So again, we would put forth this as an option to have the 1-year contract with 3 additional years of extensions.
And similar, Ms. Smith, to the question Mr. Rao was posed, is the city satisfied with the history of USI for the life and health insurance? And
yeah, absolutely. I would say that one place that USI, at least in my experience, has been in their exceptional account management, client service to the city. I feel that it's been through their work that we have been able to manage many of our self-insurance costs. And again, one of the ways that I think USI really excels is in their underwriting and their ability for trend and forecasting when it comes to the city's healthcare.
Okay. All right, thank you very much, Ms. Smith. Now turning to members of the committee. Are there any committee members or council members in attendance that have any questions? All right, we have Vice Chair Harley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So thank you, Mrs. Smith, for sharing. And one of the things that I heard you say is that they're giving us a whole rate. So that whole rate is if we do a 3-year or just a 1-year.
Yeah, so the way it would work is the rate would hold for not only the 1-year contract, which would be effective for FY23, but that same rate hold would apply for the 3 extensions should we decide to exercise them. And we would make that the decision annually.
Okay, and are we getting a 50%? So with the last, what's it called? With the casualty insurance brokerage, we were able to get that at a 50% lower rate. So is that the same situation with the health insurance?
So they did a request for a proposal. And what Mr. Rob was indicating was that the other vendor that bid on the property and casualty piece had a 50% higher proposal than what USI offered. I did not go out to bid. USI actually on the healthcare side, they've held this rate for us since 2014. And I want to go ahead to maximize that relationship, put forth for the 1 year. And again, just the way we would with any of our vendors, reevaluate that relationship on an annual basis to see if we wanted to continue that relationship. Based on where we are now, we're quite pleased. We feel they have guided us well and advised us very well in order for us to continue this relationship, certainly for this upcoming fiscal year.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Any other questions from members of council? All right. Any additional questions by members of the public? Questions or comments? All right. Seeing none, since this is an ordinance, it needs to be voted out of committee. So at this time, I would entertain a motion to move the ordinance to approve a contract between the City of Wilmington and USI Insurance Services for health and life insurance services, brokerage services, out of committee to full council for a vote.
Second.
All right, it's been so moved and seconded to move the ordinance out of committee to full council for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, any opposed? All right, well, the ayes have it, and the ordinance will move to full council for a vote. I believe the date will be February 17th, 2022. All right, everyone, and last but certainly not least, we have agenda item 1 on the Finance Committee agenda. Appreciate everyone kind of rocking with us and letting us go a little bit out of order. I think this will help us, as I know this topic, there's a lot of questions. So we have the administration's update on the ARPA funds. And I believe we have Chief of Staff Tanning Washington present.
That's correct. Good evening, committee members and all members of council. I'm here this evening to give an update on our ARPA spend down. And I shared a spreadsheet with you earlier with council members, and I asked that now you put it up as a part of this presentation.
I just want to confirm, Chief of Staff, this is there's been many versions.
Right.
Chief of Staff, there was one sent earlier, but this is the most recent version, right? As of
the most recent version.
this afternoon.
That's correct.
Okay, it's a little more updated, right?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, thank you.
So what you have before you is the ARPA funds by categories, the administrative costs, building safer communities, community investment, essential pay, revenue replacement, and workforce development. Many of these allocations we have discussed in the past, so I don't want to go through each and every one of them. I'm really going to lean to council to, ask any specific questions, particularly probably have more questions around community investment, and I'm available to answer that.
All right. Now, just I guess I have one of the first questions.
Sure.
Chief Washington. So, in terms of I know we passed we did a resolution. I believe it was back in November.
That's
approving
correct.
the city's plan. So this breakout is in accordance with that resolution, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes.
And okay, so the subcategories now, the individual entities, that is now kind of the meat and bones.
Yeah,
that's
that's
getting figured out kind of day by day, right?
That's correct. And those categories were a part of a discussion with the administration and council.
Okay. Okay. And just lastly, you do have a list of potential council suggestions and projects, and obviously the administration is doing the best to, I guess, vet those requests. Is that
Yeah, the requests. So what you see before you, you see that council has its own allocation, as well as there is still money available under community investment. So the 300,000 that's allocated to council, I believe 25,000 is set aside for each council member. So as they have projects or organizations they want to see funded, it is my hope that you guys will send over a communication to the administration stating such. It's just really, that's just that simple.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much, Chief of Staff. Now moving to council members. Councilmember Gray, I believe your hand was up first.
Yes, thank you. I just inquiring about who some of these entities are. What is Milk and Honey LLC?
Milk and Honey is a minority business located on Union Street. And they happen to be a business that was impacted by the pandemic. There were some lost revenues, and you pretty much have to, the economic development manages that, and they determine whether the organization qualifies or not. So Milk and Honey is a minority owned business.
Okay, thank you. What about Brush with Kindness? A Brush with Kindness?
Brush with Kindness, we've talked about many times over. That's Habitat for Humanity. So they're the ones that are managing the repairs in the homes.
Okay, okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
May I continue, Chair, Mr. Chair?
Yes, please.
Okay, so I think you had said that we may, well, okay. No, I think that someone else will ask about community investment and neighborhood revitalization. But I'd like to know, are there any funds set aside for Citizens Response Team or the Criminal Review Board? Well, first, the Criminal Review Board.
Yeah, so the Citizens, I'm sorry, so the Citizens Response Team or Community Review Board, you remember that there was some funding set aside in the general fund in the mayor's office. I think it was approximately 300,000 for that. 350,000 because we had money for the review board, and then we had money for community social violence impact organizations. So we have approximately 350 in the mayor's office for that. But Building Safer Communities also is an appropriation where we can also address that as well.
Okay, thank you very much. That's all I have.
All right, Councilmember Spadola.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Madam Chief of Staff, can you elaborate more on our email conversation about how the city will tap into the state's infrastructure fund to repair current infrastructure needs? And can you go into this, the scope of those requests and what items? What are the items?
Yeah, so unlike the ARPA funds, the allocation isn't given directly to the city of Wilmington. So those infrastructure funds will go to the state of Delaware, and we will submit, for lack of a better word, an application to secure some of those fundings based on our needs. And, hopefully, we'll get approved for a fair amount. I'm not aware that the guidelines are out there just yet and determining how we, prepare our ask. But yes, those funds are going straight to the state of Delaware.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Councilmember Darby.
Yes, thank you, Council Chair. I had questions about the parking garage assistance, what that was for.
Yeah, so the parking garage assistance fund was basically set up by our governor. The governor set up about $5 million, and he asked that the city participate in there by the tune of 10% of that $5 million. And this money basically assists those garages that have been hit by the pandemic, where they have taken a significant revenue loss. And unlike the restaurants and other organizations out here, nonprofits, they did not receive any PPE funding. So the governor wanted to assist them in this regard, and we put in 10%, 500,000.
Thank you. Can I follow up with another question?
Yes, please.
Yeah, so I see under building safer community subtotal, there are like specific businesses or community centers. How were those selected? Because I'm really interested in seeing the Wilmington Senior Center, which serviced the whole Wilmington community, and they were impacted really hard. And they submitted a proposal.
Right. So Councilwoman Darby, building safer communities, there are no allocations against that. That's the $8 million, and we have not appropriated any funding against that. What you're talking about is community investment. And so the senior center, it's a nonprofit. If it's council's wish that we allocate some portion of funding, then that should be articulated through council, and usually council staff lets me know how they would like to proceed.
Okay, may I answer? May I?
Yes, please.
Yeah, so I did submit it to staff about the senior center that serviced the whole Wilmington and the impact that they were having. So I'm not sure what happened, but hopefully we can get that over to you because that was sent a few months ago.
Okay, we really have to nail down an amount because as you can see, of the $5 million that's been set aside for community investment, we have left 2.23 million. So yeah, we just have to put everything to scale because I'm sure there are other organizations that you guys have in mind that you want to see funded. And so there's not that much money left. I just want to make you aware that's like 2.2 million remaining.
Yes. So that, and then the other part of my question was, how were the other individuals selected? Like, why was just like Latin American Community Center or Cultural Restoration selected over like another nonprofit? Like, what was the process?
Well, both the mayor and city council received the same request. And so it was a matter of discussions with the council and the mayor. And, you know, of course, everybody has a bigger ask, and these amounts that you see enclosed in the spreadsheet are what was agreed upon mutually with both council and the mayor.
No, I think I wasn't included, but thank you, guys.
All right, thank you very much, Councilmember Oliver. I believe you're next.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I didn't know if I missed something because my computer went out. I didn't know, was Jerry Dean, did she already receive any funding, refunds? And I didn't see Christiana Culture Center. And if they're already in there somewhere, you don't have to answer it. I just remember sending that over with Councilwoman Harley about Christiana Culture Center. And I thought Jerry Dean's and was also on that line with Milk and Honey. And I see Milk and Honey, but I don't see Jerry Dean's. So
sure. I personally haven't seen anything for Jerry Dean's. That doesn't mean that maybe economic development has something that I'm not aware of. But I haven't seen.
You're right, Tanny. I'm sorry. I apologize. It was something Jeff Flynn has spoke about. So you're right. It wouldn't be on the spreadsheet. That was from economic development. You're right. Thank you.
But in terms of Christina Cultural Arts, yes, we need to have the discussion with council on what that ask looks like. And also all of this has to be vetted through our attorneys to make sure that these organizations do in fact qualify for the use of ARPA funds. And I can't see why Christina Cultural Arts wouldn't be, but I needed to state that.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Vice Chair Harley. Floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I might have 3 items on here I want to ask about. So the disparity study, I think that when we first talked about the disparity study, was that the amount that was projected?
Yes.
Okay. So we're still in the range?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. It's not gonna be more than that. That's what the contract is for. And they've already started the work.
Okay. Okay, that's good. And the assistance to local animal shelters and Brandywine Zoo, was that on both lists? The council submitted those 2 names as well?
No, so the assistant for local animal shelters that came from the mayor's office, the Brandywine Zoo was a discussion with council and the mayor. So that's, that's been out there for some time, and they've already received their funds. So just to give you a little perspective on the animal shelters, the ones that we're focusing on are the ones that are providing free services in terms of spay and neuter and all of those things that, one would have to typically pay for, at a vet. And so we have, at least I know of one, and I think their name escapes me right now, but they have provided those free services. As a matter of fact, they had it set up in front of the city county building one day where they get them the shots for rabies, and then they do the spay and neuter.
Understood.
Yeah.
And the last two, the James Gilliam Senior Fund for Social Justice and Equity, what is that, and who did we submit that from council?
So that's, council's aware of that. It might have been thought of under the Grand Opera House because this is a program that's funded under the Grand Opera House, but it's basically an arts education program, and it's to really ensure that the kids in our community are having access to the arts, as well as this allocation provides subsidy for ticketing and also transportation.
Okay, and then lastly, this is my last, under WCAC, I know that there was a conversation that there were other smaller organizations that were connected with WCAC. And so my question is, this $500,000, is this just WCAC, or are there other organizations that are going to get portions of those dollars?
So the organizations that they have integrated services with will receive a portion of the dollars. So it's not just totally WCAC.
Okay, thank you. Because I know we originally talked about that.
Right.
That they would, and I'm glad to hear that that's definitely happening. Thank you, Mr. Chair. That's all I have.
Thank you very much. Council Member McCoy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So my question is basically about the neighborhood revitalization initiatives. I do see that no funds have actually come out for that specifically, but will administration be a little bit more forthcoming about what types of initiatives that they wish to fund, and maybe who these, I guess they will be nonprofits are?
Sure. So as we continue to roll out this program, we're going to share. Everything is on OpenGov anyway, so there's no shrinking back or hiding anything. But in terms of the neighborhood revitalization, most of that is contracts that we're going to enter into for individuals to do demolition and housing stabilization in those low income areas. So yeah, as those contracts are vetted, we will let council know.
Okay. So may I follow, Mr. Chair?
Yes, please.
All right, thank you. Actually, so I did have one question based on what Councilman Harley stated. When it came to the animal shelters, were they actually here within the city limits, or because I kept hearing Faithful Friends, which I actually visit, but they're actually outside the limits. So I was just trying to figure out who's actually being funded.
So even if it's Faithful Friends have given a large amount of their services to the city of Wilmington residents. So they were the organization that actually set up shop outside here, I believe at Peter Spencer Plaza, or maybe in the lobby, I forget where it was, but they're the ones that came into the city and provided all those free services.
Okay.
So on the flip side of that, it helps the city of Wilmington residents who can't afford to get their animals spayed or neutered or the rabies shots.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. I'm finished, Chair.
All right. Anyone else first time council members present? All right, now I'm gonna go to Councilmember Gray.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to say that I advocated strongly for the animal shelters. I don't know if you know, but I'm an animal lover, but Faithful Friends has and still do a lot for the city residents. They do a lot of the neutering programs. You can drop off strays that you find there. They service Wilmington. The fact that they're right across the line doesn't keep them from providing a lot of services for the city. So I highly recommended them for getting some ARPA funds. Thank you.
All right, Councilman Oliver.
Now, I just wanted to make the record clear. I think we all did, because I know Harley did and myself, because we're very familiar with the organization also. So I just wanted to make a record clear that it was a lot of council that was in favor of supporting that organization who supports the city. Thank you.
All right, now turning to members of public, before we turn it back to council, want to see if there's any members of the public with any questions or comments. All right, we do. We have a Mr. Jerry Crespo. Are you there, Mr. Crespo? Looks like your audio is not on. WITN?
Stand by.
Is that his side or our side?
That's going to be from his side. Mr. Crespo, can you unmute your mic, please?
Mr. Crespo?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I'm almost 100% positive. I know Mr. Crespo's going to ask about the essential pay, premium pay. And just so you're aware, there's been no deviation from that. We still have every intention on allocating that. And I'm not sure if council members are aware, but our payroll system was the Kronos system, not ours, but the Kronos itself was actually hijacked, and we had to resort to paper payroll process. In addition to that, we had to make sure that we completed the W-2s by federal guidelines. And now we're working on generating some overtime pay that the unions are due. So I know that, they're probably a little impatient, but yeah, it's a process.
Just to clarify, Chief of Staff, so the $2.5 million figure that has not deviated.
You work
No,
Friday?
that has not deviated.
Okay. You get off Friday once you come up.
I think there's a council member who needs to mute. Sorry. Okay. All right. And I don't know if Mr. Crespo is still available. Did he want the opportunity to speak? Okay. Well,
I think he's still experiencing some technical difficulties.
Okay. Well, if he comes back online, we can certainly give him the opportunity to speak. I'm not sure if Chief of Staff Washington, addressed his only concern, so if he comes back, please let me know, WITN. All right. Now moving back to members of council and members of the committee, Council Member McCoy.
Thank you, Chair. Actually, I forgot to ask about the United Way of Delaware, the learning pods. I had heard so much about the learning pods as we were basically facing the pandemic early on. Haven't heard so much about it. Wanted to find out whether or not, is this going to be still moving forward just for the pandemic purposes? Because from what I've read, I think with the executive order, I think it's going to be over with at the end of March. So I'm just trying to figure out the learning pod situation. Like, how do we get into giving United Way $150,000?
So this was a one-time allocation out of the ARPA, and we did support them last year out of the general fund for that very purpose, for kids that were impacted by COVID and needed that assistance to get back on track. And so this is a one-time allocation. They're aware of that. And, I've not heard anything otherwise. I've heard that they're doing very well in terms of their programming, but
Yes.
yeah, this was a one-time allocation.
Okay. All right. The last thing was the fact that I actually had put in for when I submitted my request, it was basically to support some of the CDC that were here on the west side, and I did not see them. It was the Be Ready, and it was also Cornerstone West. And I just wanted to know whether or not those were actually taken a look at, and if I just don't see them on this list at this time.
So I will say this, that I'm going to be in conversation with council staff. And it's my understanding that you guys are generating some sort of form which captures council's request, and in turn will be submitted in a more formal process instead of just people are shooting emails or whatever. It's going to be a more formal process where we actually get a document that says, here are the list of the projects.
Oh. Okay, I'm actually taking it back. I thought we had already done that. All right, thank you. That's all I have.
Okay, Councilwoman Oliver.
Now, I just wanted to reiterate what our Chief of Staff stated regarding the essential workers. I am so pleased to hear, and I do remember saying something about they were behind. I did hear that there was something going on with payroll because I received a couple of calls, but not to beat the dead horse, I'm just glad that the essential workers are going to finally, get what's due to them because they did work throughout the whole pandemic. So I really appreciate seeing that. Thanks again.
All right, Vice Chair Harley.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So my one question is this: all of the project names that are in white, have the majority of these funds been distributed? What is the status?
Yeah, so the majority of them have. I can tell you, let me see what's still in process. So the animal shelters is in process. Reed's Refuge, WCAC, LACC, and cultural restoration. Those are still in process, meaning that they have to just get a document, an agreement document, because you have to keep in mind that although we're giving these funds as a grant to these nonprofits, there will be a hefty reporting requirement on their part. So we have to enter into these agreements before we can disperse funding.
That's great. Okay, thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. All right. Last turn to members of the public if there's any questions. I know there's some technical difficulties. If not, I'll turn it back to council if there's any last comments or questions, as I know this is a very hot topic. I guess I have a few final, comments or questions, Chief of Staff Washington. Number one, where is it tracked what checks council actually cuts? Is that still on is there like an OMB website?
I'm not sure. Are you asking the checks that go out?
Yes, like or is there a treasurer's website? I believe there was a website at one point. Check
the OpenGov. OpenGov will show you the actual funding that's gone out the door.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so that'll give you the funding that went out the door. So, when the checks are cut, they will end up on that checkbook website.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. All right. And I guess last but not least, there's a big area about building safer communities. That part is still in the works in terms of designing what the public safety template will be.
It is. So we and a couple of the organizations that have some can assist us with the gun violence pandemic. I'll say pandemic. is, they're going to come here and do some assessment citywide. These are the organizations that have a social impact, in terms of, getting boots on the ground, things of that nature, and organizing us in a way where we can have some crisis intervention and things of that nature. So, yeah, that's still in progress. The last meeting we had was with Aquila, an organization out of Newark, New Jersey, that has assisted Newark with bringing their gun violence stats down significantly. So, yeah, this is still in progress. We haven't spent any money out of that fund yet.
Without going into details, too many details, obviously, we don't want to put the cart before the horse, Chief of Staff Washington, but is a part of that assessing where the gaps between, street community, intervention workers and law enforcement are. So this is going to involve Wilmington Police Department as well, working with these people. Okay.
Yeah, it's going to be a collaborative effort all around. It has to be.
Okay, excellent. All right, Council Member Fields.
Yes, thank you, Chair.
Yep.
Chief of Staff Washington, my question to you is, you said we have $300,000 for the councilmatic. So on top of our already the money that we get per year, that's going to go to each council member. Is that correct?
It's out of that 300,000, the council members get 25 each.
Okay.
And so some of these organizations listed in community investment have been recommended by council as well. So it's just not all of these that you see before you are just the mayor's office. That's not it. So I think the intention of setting up the 300,000 and each council member getting 25 is to give you the ability to be able to grant smaller amounts to, have a broader impact in your community. So I think they're going to be small grants.
Okay, that was my question. I was trying to figure out if that's the pot that we're going to have to use for our discretionary as well as providing grants, or would we just have, like, I know you said something about the monies. You still have some organizations that you're looking at that you haven't allocated money to. And I just wanted to know, would those organizations that might need, they might be asking for $100,000. Would they be in would they get something from another pot of money? That was just my question. I was just trying to figure out which pot of money it was coming from.
It comes out of this 5 million.
Okay.
And so the councilmatic projects are the ones that council deems, appropriate for their own districts. I mean, the only caveat to that is that, that organization needs to be a nonprofit and it has to qualify for the use of those Arpa funds, but the use of it is up to council.
Okay. Thank you. That's all I have.
All right. Vice Chair Harley.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Chief Washington, I keep hearing you mention they have to qualify. Are the qualifications posted somewhere just so we can either direct these organizations to an area where they can check that versus them submitting their paperwork and finding out, oh, we don't qualify? So my question is there an area where we can direct organizations to go to, or we can go to?
So we have a ARPA on OpenGov. You'll find an ARPA category, and it gives you the guidelines around the use of the funds. So yes, they can go online and read that.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right. Is there any additional questions, members of council? Because I know they're all, well, I guess, are there any questions for tonight? I know this is ongoing and there will be questions, especially around, the anti-violence project and strategic plan. So again, I thank you, Chief of Staff Washington, for covering a lot I think we've definitely gotten to a better place, I think, than last meeting. And we appreciate the transparency in terms of the process. So
Yeah.
is there anything else, Chief of Staff Washington, you would like to share regarding ARPA?
Yeah, I just like to tell council members if they have any questions or concerns around ARPA, feel free to contact me either via email or my cell, no matter what. I'll try to answer as best as I can.
All right, thank you very much, Chief of Staff. And with that, this concludes our agenda for tonight. We moved through fairly swiftly. I think we covered a lot. And again, as we continue to evolve with the ARPA and those plans, please, continue to keep either me or Chief of Staff Washington or on the council side, Marshall, involved and ask us any questions as we move through. And just as a little announcement, as a housekeeping matter, budget season is upon us. So you will be hearing more, and the public will be seeing more about what our priorities as a city are, and what investments we look forward to making. The mayor's budget address, as you know, comes up in early March. Don't have the specific date in front of me. I think it's the 3rd. It's the first week of March. I believe it's the first, it's the first Thursday. It's the 3rd. So please, again, everyone tune in for the mayor's budget address. Is that we'll kick off officially budget season, even though we're in the middle or even though we're beginning it. Our first council budget is later in the month on March 30th, and it will continue all the way through May. All right, as we look forward to getting a fair and balanced budget prior to the end of May. So without further ado, if there's no other questions or comments at this time, I would I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
All right, is there a second? Okay.
Everybody's on mute.
I hope everybody's awake.
Let's see.
All right, I will second.
There you go.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Well, that concludes the meetings. I look forward to seeing everyone in March. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.